For some of us, 2019 will forever be remembered for the fight that almost was at the Applebee's on Crawford Road. Not Crawfordsville Road, Crawford Road, mind you. Kyle Busch will likely have other lasting images, including some from his title showdown last weekend in South Florida.
Homestead-Miami Speedway, a championship will be won today.
We're not a favorite this time. They all have it out for me every single weekend. You do what you have to do to win the race for your team. No other driver wants it as bad as I do.
I'm a lot meaner than he thinks I am in that car, I promise you.
Green flag!
Just ran over something.
Dominant performance early on.
Hamlin saying his car is tight and slow.
What about this battle, guys? A huge error by the 19.
18 surging ahead.
Four best teams, the four best drivers. It's fun to watch.
Hamlin going for the lead.
The championship 4 running 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's a huge blow for the 11th.
And Kyle Busch.
And everything that's on the line.
What a performance. NASCAR Cup Series champion.
You know, it's crazy because leading into Homestead, and I know you each kind of covered a championship driver, but Kyle Busch was talking about how he kind of felt like an underdog, or people were kind of pegging him as an underdog. And you hear that and you're like, how is that possible? But that was what he was talking about. I mean, it had been quite a few races since he'd been to Victory Lane.
And I loved that time because the winless streak made me laugh. And I kept making the joke, yeah, you know, I guess the guy hasn't won in 10, 18 races.
You were calling for his retirement,
Just
right?
retire.
Yeah,
you know,
just
it's over. Oh, wait, he's a part of the championship 4. Oh, wait, he still has a chance at a championship. Guess what? He wins a championship. I mean, that's what was so ludicrous about that talk at the time. But at the same token, it's a sign of the performance level of this race team, of this driver, Adam Stevens, what they expect, what the sport expects from them, and that is domination. That is wins upon wins upon wins, and in you know, very quick fashion. And therefore, you know, they lived up to those expectations by winning this championship. But that's where the fans and the people out there commentating got that chance to say, hey, maybe this team isn't as good as it once was, or maybe is the underdog, just simply because they expect so much from them.
Well, and on paper, as you see here, the numbers sort of mirror 2015, and Adam Stevens, his crew chief, talked about this on the championship stage. But remember, in 2015, Kyle was fueled by that comeback, coming back from the broken leg, the broken foot. I think he was fueled this time maybe by those naysayers after that winless streak.
No doubt, and I think the other side of it, you know, he talked a lot about what a second championship meant to him going into this championship fight and what it would mean for his legacy, for validating the first championship, which, you know, there was naysayers out there with the comeback from the injury, saying it wasn't, you know, a true championship at the time, and that's I didn't agree with that. He won it fair and square, and the rules they were. But yep. I think that's what, you know, really made this special. That's what gave him the drive on this one, was to say, hey, I need to go get that second championship to start my legacy. You know, when he talks about winning championships, Kyle Busch doesn't talk about 1. He didn't talk about 2. He talks about, hey, I want to now to get 3, 4, 5, 6, aim for 7. Who just retired 7 times or is retiring after 2020 from full-time competition. That's what he wants to be talked about, and in that same vein. And I think that's why he had that motivation to get 2.
Okay, so how many can Kyle Busch get? I mean, here's the thing. Jimmie Johnson and Kyle Busch, they're the only ones in the field with more than 1. The only multiple champions. So how far can Kyle go?
I think with this format, it's incredibly tough to say that you're going to rack up championships like Jimmie Johnson did. You know, when you think back to those 5 consecutive that Jimmie did, that was unbelievable. Kyle Petty always says it's one of the most incredible things he's seen in racing. I think that's going to be a tall task, but no doubt, should he be a part of the championship 4 year in and year out? Yes, absolutely. They are going to be a championship contender until they're not, basically.
All right, you still ready to talk more 2019?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
of course, great season.
Along with becoming a 2-time Cup Series champion, Kyle Busch was one of several drivers to reach major career milestones in 2019. Back in March, he won the Cup race at Auto Club Speedway to claim his 200th NASCAR National Series victory. Now, I know it equals the king, Richard Petty. I mean, like you said, apples to oranges, right?
Apples to oranges on this one. For sure. I think, you know, that's a little tough to say, but it is an incredible accomplishment nonetheless to have 200 wins in NASCAR.
We also saw back-to-back first career wins this summer. Alex Bowman outdueled Kyle Larson at Chicagoland. That was a big moment. He made the playoffs.
Huge. Very big for him, and just a huge moment for, you know, Hendrick Motorsports putting their weight behind him, believing in him, and then lightning strikes, essentially, right?
Literally.
I mean, literally, Justin Haley goes on to win. That was an incredible moment. I was leaving the airport, a little disappointed on that day myself.
After 15 consecutive playoff appearances, a run that's up there with some of the longest in sports, Jimmie Johnson misses the postseason for the first time, and really it won't matter because he, like we said at the top of the show with his announcement, the press conference today, one of, if not the best ever.
By far, and he needed the second half of the year to really focus on getting the performance back, and now he's going to be better in 2020.
And this is big for Martin Truex Jr. because it was his first short track win.
And one of the most incredible things there is out there, he finally wins at a short track. To think that he hadn't won before this was just astonishing, but finally gets that monkey off his back, wins at a short track, and, basically in dominating fashion, would go on to dominate another short track later.
I know. He was kind of Mr. Short Track. That was what we joked. I mean, we talked to him in Victory Lane, I think both Richmond races, I believe.
Well, the Martinsville one especially.
Yeah, that's well, of course, that was the big one. So Kyle Busch wins the title. Some would argue that Martin Truex had the better season. Do you agree?
You didn't win the championship.
It's hard.
That's tough to say. I know there's a thought process out there that maybe some of the best mark of a season is simply wins, right? It's racking up wins after wins, and obviously Martin Truex did that. But when you come down to winning the championship, that's what you work for all season. So it's tough to say who has the better season in that sense. I personally, as a driver, put a little bit more mark on championships because it's a full season's worth of work. But this was a team that put themselves in the championship four. And with this format, you have to think that that's going to maybe become a little bit more of the mark. Do you put yourself in the conversation for the championship by being the championship four? Because when it comes down to one race, that's a tough thing to have your whole season hang on.
Yeah, and Martin Truex Jr. probably say, hey, wait a minute, don't count me as the best. I didn't win the title. He would probably agree with us.
I think, he would say that was a very successful year. To have 7 wins in a season for Joe Gibbs Racing, I just think overall an incredible year. And to get that first short track win, dominating Martinsville, they set themselves up as best as they could to go for that championship. When they talked about last year, they lost it, they felt like, by not winning at Martinsville. It didn't give them time to prepare.
Redemption. It was some redemption.
And I think going back there and dominating the way they did, winning that, maybe it burns a little bit not winning the championship, but they really gave themselves the best opportunity possible.
Hey, let's talk Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole, because, of course, Martin Truex played a role in that huge number. 19 wins for the organization, set a new record for the modern era. And, of course, it all began in February at the Daytona 500, where Denny Hamlin and JGR did it for JD.
Denny Hamlin's trying to block all lanes. He's to the outside, to the inside, to the checkered flag. Denny Hamlin has won the Daytona 500. A 1-2-3 sweep for Joe Gibbs Racing.
This is the greatest victory I've ever had, period, in my life.
Better than Super Bowls.
Better than Super Bowls, better than championships in racing. This was the most emotional and the best win for me ever because of JD and his life and the kind of life he lived.
It was such a heart-wrenching, touching moment to start off the season.
Yeah, no doubt. And for everything that Joe Gibbs Racing and Joe Gibbs and that whole family had gone through to go out there and have a driver that JD Gibbs had personally tabbed in Denny Hamlin to go and get that huge win at the Daytona 500. And then to have the year that they have. I mean, what an incredible year for Joe Gibbs Racing, for Toyota, for everyone involved in that organization, because this organization and Toyota have sort of changed the way that manufacturers and teams look at this sport. They've really redesigned the methodology behind how you interact between manufacturer and team. And they've really, this year, basically set the precedent. This is how it has to be done going forward with the success that they had. And I think that there's a lot of teams out there looking at what they accomplished this year and thinking, okay, we've got to change up our style, our way right now, because we've got to find a way to beat those guys.
And a successful year for Denny Hamlin as well, and we wish him success now as he recovers, because earlier today, Joe Gibbs Racing announced that Denny has successfully undergone the shoulder surgery. He talked about that he needed it a few weeks ago. I think we were in Texas when he said that. Arthroscopic surgery on his left shoulder was completed at Charlotte Surgery Center. So we wish him the best